So anglers, thanks for tuning in again today. My name's Steve Cooper. You're watching In Deep on the Delta, and this is the weekly Delta report for the week of January 21st. I want to start off by giving a big shout out to Chanel. She's one of our viewers, and she sent me a picture of a fish that she got last week. She went up to Maloney's, and we talked about Maloney's being as one of the alternative lakes to fish if you decided you need to get off the Delta a little bit. So Chanel went up to New Maloney's. She threw on a jig, started running the bank, and she picked up a 10.2 pound largemouth. So congratulations to Chanel. Great way to start off the new year, and I'm hoping that we can all build on Chanel's karma. So good job, Chanel. This is primarily a largemouth bass channel, and I am spending a lot more time on the report during the winter months talking about striped bass and a couple of the nearby lakes. And I'm using New Maloney's and Clear Lake because I think New Maloney's, Clear Lake, and the Delta are all joined at the hip. Most of us who fish the Delta also fish Maloney's and Clear Lake. So I just want to give you guys a little bit of an alternative if you need to get away from the Delta. And believe me, I fish the Delta all the time, and every now and then, even if you're just a hardcore Delta rat, you need to get off the Delta, go up and refresh your fishing with a little lake fishing, clear water fishing. Just get off the Delta a time or two every now and then, and you come back with a little different attitude for the Delta. So as the spring rolls in and the fishing starts, the largemouth bass really start to pick up, we're going to be focusing a lot more on largemouth bass because there's going to be different patterns, things changing, water temperatures, everything will be changing very rapidly. So we'll have a lot more to talk about when it comes to fishing for largemouth bass. Let's get into the Delta report. I've been out, I think, 3 times this week. We've had weather, everything from 70-degree sunny, beautiful days to overcast, foggy, and wind up to about 20 to 25 miles an hour. So we've had a little bit of everything. Water is still 48 to 50 degrees. On the sunny days, I've actually had a couple of days that maybe picked up to 51, 52, but the water's cold. That's not changing. It's winter conditions. Because of the wind action, and we had the 3-day weekend, a lot more boat traffic, the clarity is back to the dirty D. We're talking about 3 to 5 foot visibility, and that's what it should be here on the Delta. So visibility, temperatures held true, visibility has dropped a little bit. Let's get into the report. Hook, line, and sinker, talked a little bit about low traffic coming through the shop, so not a whole lot of reports, but they're seeing an increase on the striped bass. It is slow. Most of the fish they're seeing coming from the Frank's Track area, and the people that are fishing out there and talking about it are getting their striped bass on drifting live bait. Outdoor Sportsman here in Stockton also talked about fishing for striped bass out in Frank's Track, and they had a few clients that had some really big numbers, good solid numbers, I mean double-digit numbers. They got their fish throwing flukes. So the fish are out there. If you're going to be fishing striped bass, I would definitely start in Frank's Track, and either live bait or flukes is where I'd start. I've been going out of Paradise Point. I'm seeing a lot of striped bass traffic in Disappointment Slough and up and down the channel, out from the mouth of Disappointment. I've talked to several people, and they're catching fish. It's not fast fishing, it's slow, but the people that are patient are catching fish, and most of those folks, they are using drifting live bait also. So the fish are out there. Be patient if you're fishing for striped bass on the Delta, and you'll probably catch a few fish. Let's get into the largemouth bass. That has also been slow. Hook, line, and sinker, not a whole lot of word going on out there, but a few guys in the shop have been out fishing, and they have been experiencing very slow fishing, mostly finesse, and they're fishing Frank's Track and out from that area. So tough fishing out there, not getting a lot of big fish. but not a lot of pressure. I'm sure somebody's catching fish out there, but they're just not talking about it. Outdoor Sportsman, same old, not getting a whole lot of dock talk when it comes to largemouth bass, but there was a local tournament recently that produced some pretty nice bags. I'm talking 15, 16 pounds. They had several nice bags for this time of year. And the word is the guys that were catching fish during the tournament were throwing swim baits. So that's about all I got from the shops. I was out, like I said, about 3 times, and my fishing has been pretty decent. And before I get into my report, stick around after my report, and I'll talk about 2 of the mistakes that I've made in the last month or so that have cost me a couple weeks of slow fishing. I'm back to catching a few fish. It's slow, but we'll talk about a couple of my mistakes, and I think you can learn a little bit from them. Don't make the same mistakes that I did. So I have been finding normally slow fishing, but one of the things that I'm finding is about every 4th or 5th trip, you'll find a day where the fish just seem to be biting. On my normal 5-hour day of fishing, I'm catching, I'll say, 3 to 5 fish, and they've all been on reaction baits, and we'll talk about that in a second. But maybe that 5th time I come out, the fish are just biting, and I'll have a 10 or 12 fish day. Most of the fish are, I'd say 50% of the fish are just that 13, 14-inch fish, and then with a few 2 to 3 pound fish, nothing over 3 pounds. I have had a couple of bigger fish come up and swipe at my bait where they're in view of the boat, but I haven't caught those fish. But they're just not as active as the smaller fish. I will also say that when the sun came out, I ran some banks just kind of cruising around, and I did see some big fish poking their head into shallow water. One fish I'm pretty sure was very close to a double digit, and they weren't biters. Didn't even fish for them because they were cruisers, and I was blasting through just seeing what I could see. But I think they're coming out of the deep water, and they're starting to look up here and, you know, thinking, maybe this might be a good place to spawn in a month or so. Whatever they're doing, they're coming into the shallows, they're moving out. So the fish are moving around a little bit. I would also like to say that the fish that I am catching are beautiful fish. They're heavy for this time of year. They're eating well. They may not be biting for us fishermen very well, but they're eating well. They're really clean fish. They're beautiful specimens of largemouth bass. So the fish out here are really in good shape, and I think when the water warms up, we're in for a really good year. Hopefully we're going to get some rain between now and spring, but the fish are in really good shape. Let's talk about what I've been getting them on, and mostly jerk baits. I have really been, my best bait again is this, what is it? A ghost shad, and that's a pointer. I have also picked up a few fish on a donkey rig, a 2 fluke setup. Primarily, my fish are coming off of the pointers and the jerk baits, but the donkey rig has been working. I'm going to keep that on. And I also tried I've tried throwing some of the bigger jerk baits, and they're not working for me. The smaller jerk baits like the Vision 110 are what's getting them. I decided when the water got a little cloudy, I would go to a sexy shad color. I didn't get anything with the sexy shad, but I did throw on a Vision 110 with a blue back, and you can see this line of chartreuse. And I have caught some fish on this. So stick to the smaller baits, the smaller jerk baits, you'll get more action. I've also found that the fish are not coming on the first half of the cast. They're coming more on that last half of the cast. So if I make a 60-foot cast, while I'm working that bait, the first 30 feet, I'm getting very few fish. I'm getting most of my fish within 30 feet of the boat, and that's telling me they're following the jerk bait, and finally they're either moving away from it, or it finally does something that just triggers the bite. Maybe it's just making a snap at the right time, or a little longer pause, or whatever it is, they'll hit it. And the longer the pause, the more fish I'm catching. And I'm a guy that needs to fish fast, so for me a long pause is 10 to 15 seconds, and that's killing me. I'm trying to slow down more and more, because the more I slow down, the more fish I'm catching. Talk to Clear Lake Bait and Tackle, and there is an uptick, and there's something going on up there, and a lot of people are being tight-lipped. Last week we talked about the people at Clear Lake Bait and Tackle said they knew there were people going out throwing big baits, catching big fish, but they weren't catching many fish. Well, now there's a lot of dock talk up there. Guys coming in talking about 20-pound plus bags. They're not telling anybody where they're going or what they're doing, but the largemouth bass is on an uptick. Most people are having a tough time, but the fish are up there, and they're some of the guys are catching them. The one tip that I did get from Clear Lake Bait and Tackle is they're seeing a lot of boats in the Rattlesnake Arm. So if you go up there, that's where I would start, and it looks like they might be on an uptick. So keep an eye on Clear Lake, and the crappie are still doing really well up there. Moving on to New Maloney's, John Liechty from Experienced Guide Service. He's been fishing up there, and he is back to fishing finesse baits, and he's pulling good numbers of fish. They're moving around a little bit as we get the weather patterns going like this. The fishing follows them, and again, John says that if the sun's out, they tend to pull up a little closer to shore, and that's not meaning right on the shore. It's meaning 10, 20, 30 feet of water. When it's cloudy or overcast, or you have weather fronts coming in, they'll move back out to that 50, 60 feet of water. So depending on what the weather's doing, you got to be prepared to go up there and move around. But if you do, you'll catch some fish. And I cornered John, and I asked him, I said, if you're going up there for one day and you just need to catch a few fish, what's the bait you would use? And he said he would use a Ned rig with a TRD worm, peanut butter and jelly. So that's good of John to give us that information, because we might go up there and catch a few of his fish. So Clear Lake. Let's get into talking about some of my mistakes, and I think this is going to really help you. We'll move back to around Thanksgiving, and I was telling everybody I was having some really decent winter fishing with worms, and I was fishing inlets, I was fishing docks, I was fishing man-made structure, I was fishing marinas around boats. The more structure, the more that the fish were kind of pinned in, the better I was doing. If a dock was there and it had a bunch of hyacinth that was drifted into it and a couple of poles on it, or pilings or something, that's where I was fishing, and I was doing real well. And I kind of mentioned a few weeks ago that I had made a mistake because I wore that pattern out. I should have seen that pattern start to dissipate, and when that was happening, I should have started looking for new areas, but I didn't. I fished that pattern into the ground, and when that pattern died off, it was like starting brand new on the river, because I hadn't been moving around much. So I had about 2 to 3 weeks of really slow fishing trying to find another pattern. So my first mistake was I stayed on the pattern too long without spending a little time each day hunting around for new fish. This was my second mistake. When I finally gave up on the pattern, I left the area and I started moving too far and too fast. The first thing I did was I moved out to the channel, and I tried to fish up and down the channel and right around the mouths of the sloughs. I didn't get anything there for a couple of trips. I went to the back of the sloughs. I fished out there, worked around, didn't get anything there. I decided, well, maybe I'll go back to the docks. Fished the docks, nothing there. I was really starting to get to that point where I was about this far from what I don't like to call desperation fishing. Hadn't gotten desperate yet, but I was starting to sweat. So what I did, I was out fishing the docks one day, looking around. I said, I know there were fish out here. Where did these fish go? Well, I happened to be on a set of docks that about 50 yards down the bank, there was a point. So I went out to that point, and there was a little bit of moving water, and that's when I started fishing the jerk baits and flukes and things, getting away from the power bait, the worming and things like that, fishing reaction baits, I started catching fish. Well, once I found that moving water, I started moving out to the islands that had breaks in the banks where there was more moving water, and I started catching more and more fish. Come out, be patient, look for the moving water, throw some jerk baits, and you'll catch some fish. And if you're here on one of those days when the fish are biting, you'll actually have a pretty good day. So thank you guys for watching. If you haven't subscribed, make sure you subscribe. Tell a friend about it, and I appreciate you guys watching. You guys are keeping me out here fishing, and a lot of times I'm coming out an extra time or two just to see if I can get something going. I haven't got a lot going, which I know it's one of those things. It's just this time of year, but I'm really doing the best I can to come up with a new pattern or something for you guys. But anyhow, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys out here on the water, and I'll be out next Thursday, which I don't know, it'll be the 28th or something. We'll see you guys then. Good luck on the water, be safe, and Chanel, great catch, and let's all build on that double-digit fish. Keep that in the back of our mind when we're out here fishing. It can be any cast, whether you're here on the Delta, New Maloney's, or Clear Lake. These are some of the best fisheries in the United States. So keep that in mind, keep fishing, and good luck to all you guys. Thank you for watching.